Today I'm giving you a quick recap of everything that I've been knitting on the past few weeks. So grab a cup of something and let's dive in. Welcome back, friends. My name is Melissa. I am the dyer behind Rising Tide Fiber Company, and you can find me on all the socials as at risingtidefiberco.com, and you can find me on Goodreads, Storygraph, and Ravelry as at Macy Boston. It's been a few weeks, and I do have one finished object before I jump into the obvious whip in the room. I finished a pair of socks. A couple weeks ago, I was working on my I Can Do It With a Broken Heart socks. I was just a few rounds shy of the heel, and I have since finished the heel and the sock, and I actually finished its mate as well. For those of you that are new here, I use a US 1 2.25 millimeter 9-inch circular needle. I cast on 64 stitches. I do an inch of 2x2 ribbing, and then from cuff down to where I want to start my heel, I do 7 inches, and then I do a heel flap and gusset, turn my heel, and then from where I turn my heel to where I start my toe based on my shoe size, I knit for 7¼ inches. Then I do my toe increases. This was what I call a half sock set or a micro sock set, meaning it was a 50-gram skein with a 20-gram mini. I have probably, I'd say 10 yards left of my main color, and then I have a significant amount of my contrasting color. This colorway was from my weekly advent for the Taylor Swift Tortured Poets advent from last year. I have not brought this color into my standard lineup, but I have heard from folks that they would like me to. So I will probably do that by the time festival season rolls around. And that's the only finished object that I have, but that will slowly move us into the whip in the room. This is my Fleetwood sweater. This pattern is by Tana Savelli of Tana's Fiber Arts. And then I crocheted all of my granny squares. They are all based on colorways that were inspired by the personalities of my Boston Terriers. So I chose to do all 9 of my squares identically. And then after you do your squares, you do a join as you go. You knit a few panels, you connect that, then you do your ribbing, you do some shoulder shaping at the top, and then I've had the top done for quite some time. Let's see if she'll rotate. She will. So the last time I was with you guys, I had gotten this far of my back done. And so I finished my back, the length, did the shoulder shaping, and then I chose to, see if we can turn her back around. I chose to then, from there, you're supposed to seam up the sides, do your sleeves, and then do the collar as the final piece. But I firmly believe that collars really make a difference in how your overall sweater is going to lay in regards to your sleeves. So I went ahead and did my collar. This is a 2x2 ribbed collar that is folded over and then kind of loosely sewn together so that I can get my head through it. So I went ahead and did my collar next, and then I did my mattress stitching to seam up the sides since this sweater is done in pieces. And as you can see over here, I have started my sleeves. I have to get about 4 inches done, and then I can start decreasing. This blue is worsted weight yarn, so I honestly think that these sleeves are going to go really quickly I am using a my Chaigu mini set. If you're unfamiliar with these, Chaigu makes a mini set. The red pouch is like 0 to 3 sizes, and then this blue one I think is 4 to 8. Yeah, 4 to 8. It comes with 2-inch needles and 3-inch needles. And then it comes with a series of 3 cords. Now I have another set. It looks like a US 5 on a different sweater. And then I have my 7s on this. I love knitting sleeves in the round. I have always been a knitter who has not magic loop sleeves. I don't use DPNs. I have always chosen traditionally to do, if it's an oversized sweater, like then from a 16 to a 12 to a 9-inch, or a 12 until I need a 9-inch circular. And so I invested in lots of those. But I really find these Chaigu pouches incredibly handy. You can order them through just about any of your local yarn shops that carry Chaigu interchangeable sets. Again, there's a red pouch that goes from needle sizes 0 to 3. It'll have the 2 and 3-inch needle sizes. The blue is 4 to 8, and it will have 2 and 3-inch needles. And then there is a yellow pouch for sizes like 9 to 12 maybe, or 13. Don't quote me on that. But it only has one set of needles because the needles are much bigger. They couldn't get 2 and 3-inch needles to both fit on the same size cords. I think these are a game changer in the world of sleeves. Now, I do know people that own these small sets and they do their socks. I mean, they do they really give these needles a workout. I use them strictly for smaller circumferences, particularly sleeves, because they are just packaged really small, and this fits down in my project knitting bag. I do have a project pouch that I keep these in, multiple sets. But they really come in handy for just going round and round, which is my preferred method of doing sleeves. So as you can imagine, I'm really pleased with the progress that I've made. I had kind of stalled out a little bit when I got to the back. I just was really getting bored with the back and forth with the one color. But I really hunkered down this weekend and finished that back. And then last night I seamed up my sides and started my sleeve before bed. So I'm really happy with that. I'm hoping by the time that I see you again, I'll have at least one sleeve done and maybe a good portion of the second one. I'm not in too big of a hurry to get it done because I'm obviously not going to wear it anytime soon. Because again, it is a worsted weight sweater. So I'm going to have a very small window where I really just have the opportunity to wear it. But I am really pleased with its outcome so far. The other project that I have been working on is, you may remember that 2 weeks ago, if you saw the episode, I had started a sock in the Say You'll Remember Me colorway from Frogget Yarns. Let's see. It was this yarn and this mini. And I had just started the sock. And when I spoke to you guys last, I was right here again. I was just right before the heel. You can see this is the charm that I bought with the sock set. It's by Little Strumco, Kelsey it over at Little Strumco. It matches the dog on the cover of that book. And so I am a few inches away before I need to split for my toe. When I do that, I do switch to a magic loop needle. That's the only time you'll really ever catch me doing magic loop, is on the toe of a sock. I am a 9-inch circular girl through and through. So a fair amount of progress on this one. I really kind of alternated between the two socks. And then once I got through that second heel here, then it was just, okay, let's power through and finish this, and then circle back to these. But I had casted this one on because I loved this yarn when I received it from Frogate Yarns. So I anticipate having one of those done in a few weeks. Socks are kind of my I don't want to say mindless knitting, because they're not mindless. It's really rather meditative for me, but socks are portable. I find when I'm just mentally exhausted and I don't want to think too hard, or maybe I'm going out somewhere and I want to take a project with me, socks are my go-to all the time. So there's always socks on the needles. Right now, those are the only other ones that I'm focusing on. I'm sure I have other whips that I could pull out and have a sock. I may cast on another sock here shortly, because I like to have two going, so that if one is stuck in a more like on the heel where I have to think a little bit more, or I just don't feel like picking up gusset stitches to then start decreasing, then I have something that is meditative and can go round and round. And I have plenty of new socks that I could cast on. I did cast on a new project. This was one of the projects that I talked about in my fall knitting plans and ideas video. And this is the barn stable. This was it's a knit along that's being hosted by Malabrigo, and for this pattern, they had a new worsted weight yarn come out. I wasn't interested in buying the new worsted weight yarn from Malabrigo to do the shawl, but I really love the shawl pattern. And so I did decide to use my Guilty as Sin colorway, which is sort of a green leaning teal, I think. A couple weeks ago in that video, it showed up kind of blue, I think. So it might have been the lighting that day. So hopefully it's not. And then for my contrast, I'm using Luck of Legend, which is an extremely pale blue that has purples, browns, some golds in it. This is a garter stitch shawl. So I did cast it on, and as you can see, I got all the glorious garter stitching done, and then I did actually start the mosaic portion. It is mosaic knitting, which if you're going to do color work, that's probably the easiest color work I can imagine, because you're only using one color at a time. You can see that the pattern is beginning to develop. I am really pleased with my color selection, and I definitely have a ways to go. Obviously, all of this, it was just a 2-row repeat over and over again for like 100 and some repeats, and then getting into the mosaic. So now is the part where it will definitely be more slow going for me, because I'll have to have my iPad up with the I'm not using the chart, I'm actually using the written instructions for this one, but I'll have to have my knit companion pulled up because I didn't print it out. I've started using knit companion more frequently versus printing a lot of things. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. My guild did hosted, one of our meetings was posted by one of the ladies over at Knit Companion, and she did a basic tutorial, and it just kind of re-inspired me to go back to using it. So that's what I've been doing for my Fleetwood. I did it for my Getty. I'm using it for my Barnstable. So I really want to have this finished by the time the end of October comes, because I'd like to have it as a sample on the truck. I think it's different, and it's really lovely, if I do say so myself. I do actually, besides being a sample, I do think that obviously this is a good color for me, this tealy green. I honestly think it's a good color for a lot of folks. So I I specifically chose these colors because they were closer to colors of things that I actually wear. Like I could see wearing this with jeans, that sort of thing. And that is all that I have been knitting on. So that brings me into shop news. And so I thought I would remind everyone that there is a new colorway up on the homepage of the website. It is Gridiron Goddess. This is an example of a sport weight skein. And so this is sort of like a minty green, but it has blue in it. And then it is flecked with gold and teal and pink and purple. So it's just a really fun colorway. I did develop it for the pigskin party. So if you are a participant in Boston Jen's pigskin party over on Ravelry or Instagram, on the Ravelry threads, you will find the discount code for it. But this colorway is open for everyone to buy it. I have plans to cast on a ooey gooey cow with like a bright pink, and I just haven't gotten around to it, but that's why I have a skein of sport. It is a dyed to order colorway. I do have some. I try to always have some dyed and ready to go, but otherwise my turnaround time is roughly about a week, 2 weeks at most for it, because again, I already have some already dyed. So every time somebody needs, like when I needed a sports skein, obviously I can't just do one in the pan, so there's extra sports skeins done. So plenty of that in the shop if you're looking for that, or you're just looking for something new. Maybe you too are a football fan and looking for something a little bit different. Speaking of football fans, I did kick off football for the NFL season. I did, for my local Ravens fans, I did dye Ravens flock sock sets again. This is a 75-25 skein with, it comes with two minis, the black and the purple, to celebrate the Ravens. This is my set from last year that I never got around to knitting. So this may be the sock set that I cast on next, so that I can have a pair of Raven socks before the end of the year. Last spring, I did a similar dye style, but instead of purple and black, it was orange and black for the Orioles. And I did do those socks, but unfortunately I did them on 1.5. So they are house socks. I can't really wear them out because they're just too loose to wear in socks. But I did a striping sequence, and I'm thinking about pulling those out and doing my Raven socks in a similar knit style. So I'm excited for that. So there are plenty in the shop if you are interested in getting yourself a set. And then I did get all of the Halloween countdowns sent out. So if you ordered the Witchy Wool weekly Halloween countdown that were based on the Nancy Warren's book series, The Vampire Knitting Club, I did the first four covers of those novels each week. You'll open one, so those are sent out. I do believe I have a couple more of those left. I think I have one that is a micro sock set, so it's that 50-gram skein with the 20-gram mini, and then I think I have one that is full sock sets, where it's the 100-gram full skein with the 20-gram mini. So I believe those are the only two that I have left. And then, so everybody received those. That's why the extras are now up on the website. And then there are also extras of the Mirror Mirror 31-day Halloween countdown. That was the one that is based on the evil queen's side of the Snow White story. So it is a much darker, moodier palette. I think there's only one, maybe two skeins in there that are brighter. Everything else is much darker and moodier. It was a good test to my dye skills because I do not typically dye things that are dark and moody per se. I have in years past. I did an ACOTAR Christmas Advent one year, and I did a book tropes like library type one, and that one was definitely darker, but not quite as dark. For this Mirror Mirror one, I have a 20-gram fingering and a 20-gram DK left. So there's only two of those as of the recording of this. So again, all of those were received by their recipients. So the extras have gone up on the website. So I have a handful of Halloween countdowns. If you are interested, I'll put a link to the description box in the below, so that if you want to check those out and pick one up, you can. And that just brings me into what am I watching? Quite frankly, I'm not watching a whole heck of a lot of anything. I find myself listening to audiobooks more and more, and I'm just kind of detaching from what's on the television screen. I have caught myself turning on things that are very much a comfort show, things that I have seen or movies I have watched hundreds of times. Like last week I watched Baby Boom with Diane Keaton. I mean, I think I watch it every year, but it's usually in the wintertime. But I wanted to watch something else, and the only way I could watch it is if I purchased it or rented it on any number of platforms, and I was really annoyed. And then I saw that and I was like, well, screw it, I'm just going to watch that instead. But for me, that's kind of just a really comfort type of show. Today is Thursday, and so if you are on Peacock, The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City premiered last night. I did watch it. I have always been a fan of Bravo's Real Housewives franchise. I have noticed in the last year, I have really kind of pulled back from the Bravo world. Not because I don't like it, but I think, quite frankly, living in the United States right now is chaotic enough. So I don't think I'm seeking that drama and chaos on television quite as much, because our news cycle is feeling rather chaotic and very dramatic. So I'm just not finding myself reaching for reality television the way that maybe I used to. As for books, I've again been doing a ton of audiobooks, and right now I am almost finished. I think I'm in the last hour of Next to You by Hannah Bowen Young. This is the companion novel to one that I listened to last week. I've enjoyed this one, probably not as much as I enjoyed the first one, But I really enjoyed this author. She always has some underlying theme that hits a little harder so that it's not just, like romantic comedy. This one is a friends to lovers type of trope, which I do enjoy. It's not necessarily my favorite trope, but I do definitely enjoy it, and I do really like this author. And then I've been reading Joy to the Girls. This is a novella. The author's name is escaping me right now, and I didn't write it down because apparently when I wrote it down, it was also escaping me, and I didn't go back to look it up. I will put it on the screen. This is an advanced reader's copy for me. It is a novella. This author wrote, what is the name of that book? She Gets the Girl. Which I thoroughly enjoyed, that sapphic romance novel. This is sort of like, if that's book one in the series, this is like book 1.5 type of thing. So I'm almost finished. I think I have about a half hour left, according to my Kindle, reading it. And that's what's currently in my books. As for life updates, for most of us, the weather is beginning to break. It's been kind of rainy and dreary this week. Today is the first day that the sun was out. So things were starting to kind of dry out. There are leaves everywhere. Where I live is pretty, it's a rural county in Maryland. I do live right on the bay. I'm like 55 feet up from the bay, but there's a lot of wooded lots near us. Like, it's an older community, so there are massive trees. So fall is here, leaves are falling. I was out today, this morning. I blew off, swept the patio, blew off the driveway and vehicles, so the leaves aren't rotting on my deck and that and vehicles and such. And Paisley is all about the leaves. She is 5 months old now, and so it is her first fall, and she thinks that leaves in the yard are amazing. Somebody has a tree that has massive leaves. Like, they are literally the size of my face. So they're as big as her practically at this point. And she just thinks it's amazing when she gets one, and she will scamper to the raised like platform bed on the patio, and she will shred it if she's not trying to shred it in the yard. Like, she just thinks leaves are just amazing. She also has been finding these really fat, juicy looking grubs. And so I did look it up on Google. They are the white grubs that burrow into the ground and eventually turn into Japanese beetles. I have been taking them from her. They're not toxic to dogs, but I just don't want my puppy eating grubs. So I have been taking them from her. And at first I was kind of grossed out about it, but I'm like, well, if it means I have less Japanese beetles, flicking around next summer, I'm here for it. So find a way, girlfriend, and I just quietly take them in the poop bags that I use in the yard when I'm picking up after all of them. So they're going. So really, there's not much in life that's going on. Things are relatively quiet in life right now. So I have lots of opportunities to be knitting, to be reading, to be spending time with the dogs outside. I'm thankful for the weather to be breaking. Today it's definitely a little warmer, but now we're at least getting back into temperatures where I can get back out in the evenings and be walking them, which is something I enjoy and I know they enjoy. Paisley has been getting out because every weekend she is going to either private training or a puppy socialization class with other little puppies. We've Her trainer and I have discovered that she's really easy to train right now. All puppies at that 6-month mark start we call them teenagers or adolescents at that point, and that's when they start to test boundaries and stuff. So it will be interesting to see how she reacts. But as of right now, she's proving to be extremely easy to train, which um, is a blessing in my book because I've had enough um, of really independent thinkers. So I would really love to have another one that was not stubborn about it. And so far, she thinks it's the training is fun, and she's here for it. To her, it's a game. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that she continues to enjoy it. So outside of that, I haven't been venturing out on too many adventures really. Fiber festival season has kicked off in some areas, and I am skipping September shows this year and just waiting for the end of October when my first show will be in Frederick. With having a puppy, I kind of opted to make my fall a little slower and a little smoother so that her transition, I didn't want that transition for her of having to be boarded or going to daycare or all that kind of stuff. I didn't want that to happen when she was still really little. I mean, she's still pretty small, um, but that is why I did not. That's part of why I chose to keep the beginning of fall pretty free and clear for my schedule, festival wise. Um, but you'll find me back up, and I'm looking forward to Halloween countdowns. So I'm looking forward to October getting here so we can begin counting down those together. So if you've made it this far, I would love for you to leave me a yarn ball emoji, or tell me, did I inspire you to make a Fleetwood or cast on a Barnstable? I would love to know. So until next time, friends, happy knitting.